Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alina Patatanian, and I'm here with my colleagues Ronnie Manuki and Belinda Banuelos, and we are here from the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. Welcome to the webinar covering three LA County ordinances, which are the Public Health Anti-Retaliation Ordinance, the Hero Pay Ordinance, Minimum Wage Ordinance, and also we will provide some small business resources. The purpose of this webinar is to ensure business owners know their rights and know their responsibilities when it comes to these ordinances, and workers learn about their rights. At the conclusion, we will be answering any questions you might have. Please make sure your microphone is muted. You may ask questions anytime during the webinar by submitting through the chat box. And this webinar will be recorded and will be available on our YouTube page. Also, at the end of the presentation, we would like to ask you to complete a survey to see how we are doing. So first, we will go ahead and cover the Public Health Anti-Retaliation Ordinance, which became effective on November 24, 2020. Since March 16, 2020, the health officer has issued and continues to issue a number of COVID-19 related health officer orders to address the increasing threat to the public health and safety as a result of COVID-19. So to prohibit retaliation against employees who report or discuss non-compliance with the COVID-19 related health officer orders, will both promote the reporting of such noncompliance and allow the county to more quickly address the spread of COVID-19. So this ordinance encourages workers to report public health violations without fear of retaliation. Next slide, please. So the Public Health Anti-Retaliation Ordinance says that no employer may discriminate in any manner or take any adverse action against an employee, or if they report or discuss about their employer's non-compliance with the health officer order, if they form a public health council, inform any other worker of their rights and responsibilities, and try to exercise their rights under this ordinance. If any of this happens, the employer may not retaliate against the employee. And in the next slide, we'll go over what retaliation is. Next slide. So what is retaliation? Retaliation is any change or adverse action taken against the worker. And some of those examples are termination, demotion, any pay reduction, reduction of hours, involuntary change of shift time, and involuntary change of workplace responsibilities. These are not all, these are just some examples. These are just some examples of retaliation. So if you are a business owner, and if you do any change against the worker, that could be considered retaliation. Next slide. Verifying jurisdiction. The county, the Public Health Anti-Retaliation Ordinance applies countywide, except in cities where they have their own health officers, such as Long Beach and Pasadena. It is very important to check jurisdiction to make sure, if you're a business, to know whether this ordinance applies to you, if you have to comply, and also if you're an employee to see if you are protected under this ordinance. There's some links here through the County Registrar Recorder's Office or through the regional planning, where you can enter an address and see the jurisdiction to verify jurisdiction. Next slide. Identifying the worker. So who is considered a worker under this ordinance? It's basically any individual who performs any type of work in the county of LA, except in cities, as I mentioned, where they have their own health officers, such as Long Beach and Pasadena. There are some exceptions to this rule, which is independent contractors, volunteers, and government employees are excluded from the ordinance. They are not protected. But other than that, any individuals, it can be part-time employee, full-time employee, does not matter the hours they work, they are protected under this ordinance. Next slide. And now identifying the employer. So who is the employer under this ordinance? Which employers, businesses have to comply by this ordinance? It's any person who directly or indirectly meaning if you hire a worker through an agent, through a temporary service or staffing agency that you employ any worker and exercise control over their wages, hours, duties, or working conditions of any worker. Next slide. Submitting a complaint of the retaliation for reporting public health violation. If you're an employee and you have been retaliated, there are several ways you can submit a complaint with our department and also with the Department of Public Health. We have our 1-800 number here. You have our website here where you can go and file an online complaint. And also you can email us to noretaliation@dcba.lacounty.gov. You can also submit a complaint with the Department of Public Health, and their email address is here, phcouncils@ph.lacounty.gov. Investigation of complaints. So the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs is authorized to investigate and enforce the provisions of this ordinance, which means once we receive a complaint, we can investigate to find out if the employer is in violation of this ordinance. We may issue, if we do find out that the employer is in violation, we may issue a finding, which is considered a citation within 1 year after receiving a complaint. So basically, the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs has 1 year to investigate such complaints after receiving a complaint from an employee. Next slide. Administrative fine for a violation. After the CBA investigates a complaint, if we find a violation by the employer, we may issue an administrative citation to the employer, and we can fine the employer up to $10,000 per violation per day. Employer may contest the violation if they do not agree with our findings, and by filing an administrative hearing in front of the hearing officer. Next slide. Right of action to enforce violations. So the worker also has the option, or the county counsel, the county lawyers, on behalf of the worker, file a lawsuit in the Superior Court. That has to be done within 3 years of the employer's last act. The employee or the worker or the county counsel may be awarded the hiring or reinstatement of the position that they had before the alleged unlawful act. They can ask awarded actual damages, including but not limited to lost pay and benefits, statutory damages in the sum of $10,000 per violation, whichever is greater, and also punitive damages, any damages that the employee may have because of the employer's act. Next slide. There's a requirement before the worker or the county counsel files a lawsuit in the court. The worker or county counsel must provide a written notice to the employer of the provision of the chapter alleged to have been violated, and the facts to support the alleged violation. So basically, there needs to be a letter to go out to the employer saying that they are in violation and what are the facts that supports that violation. And the employer is given 15 days to try to fix the violation, to cure the violation. If they don't cure it, then at that time, the employee or the county counsel may file the case in the court. With this slide, we are concluding the Public Health Anti-Retaliation Ordinance. If you have any questions specific to this ordinance, you can put it in the chat box and we can answer at the end. Now we will move on to our COVID-19 Hero Pay Ordinance, which became effective on February 26, 2021, for 120 days, unless extended otherwise. Next slide. So the purpose of the Hero Pay is that grocery retail and drug retail workers having considered essential workers during this COVID, their work has increased. Usually these employees are considered low-wage earners with minimal benefit, and they have no luxury working from home. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors took these things into consideration while deciding whether to pass the Hero Pay Ordinance or not. Next slide. Applicability. So the Hero Pay Ordinance does not apply to everyone. There's specific requirements, and those requirements are you either have to be a grocery or a drug retail store, and that sells primarily food or a variety of prescription and non-prescription medicine. Or if you're not a grocery store or a drug retail store, then your store must be 85,000 square feet, and you must dedicate 10% or more of your sales to groceries or to drugs. And also you must meet the following 3 requirements. You must operate at least 1 store in the unincorporated LA County area. You either have to be publicly traded or employ 300 or more workers nationwide. And number 3, employ more than 10 employees per store. As we can see, there are a lot of requirements here, which means that it does not apply to, this ordinance does not apply to small businesses. Examples of the stores that this applies to is, for example, CVS, Walgreens, Ralph's, Trader Joe's, Sprouts. These are some examples of the stores that if they're in the unincorporated, it applies to them. Again, it does not apply to small businesses. Next slide. Every ordinance has an exemption, and the exemption for this ordinance is that it does not apply to public entities. Public entities are such as federal, state, county employees, and also incorporated cities it does not apply to, including school district, and also salaried employees, executives. Jurisdiction, we are getting into jurisdiction again, but especially for this ordinance, jurisdiction is very important because, as we stated, this ordinance does not apply to countywide. It applies to only unincorporated areas of the county of LA. And in order for you to check jurisdiction, we have the links here to this website where you can go check jurisdiction to see if you are a business, to see whether it does, you have to pay the Hero Pay to your employees, and if you're an employee, to see if you are entitled to the $5 Hero Pay. Next slide. And now I will turn it over to my colleague, Ronnie Manuki, who will continue this presentation.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? So I'm gonna start off with going with the requirements of the Hero Pay Ordinance. The Hero Pay amount is $5 per hour in addition to the employee's base salary, base wage. Employees can request paid leave instead of the $5 an hour Hero Pay if they choose to, and there's a formula in calculating the amount of days the employee accrues. Some employers have been paying voluntary hazard pay before the Hero Pay Ordinance was passed, and that hazard pay will count towards the Hero Pay amount. In other words, those employers will get credit for the voluntarily hazard pay. Next slide, please. So the Los Angeles County Hero Pay Ordinance requires some additional information to be added to each employee's pay statement. The ordinance requires employers to include the hourly rate of the Hero Pay, the amount of Hero Pay, paid leave or voluntarily hazard pay earned, and lastly, the number of hours worked by the employee that entitles the employee to the Hero Pay or hazard pay in that pay period. Next slide, please. This ordinance also requires the Los Angeles County Hero Pay poster to be displayed in a conspicuous and accessible place at every store in the unincorporated Los Angeles County. This way, all employees have access to the information and know their rights under this new ordinance. Next slide, please. As far as retaliation, of course, retaliation is prohibited when employees exercise their rights under the ordinance. If any employee is retaliated against by their employer for requesting hero pay or gets retaliated against by communicating anything regarding the hero pay ordinance to another employee, the DCBA has the authority to investigate the business for retaliation. Next slide, please. So DCBA has been authorized by the Board of Supervisors to be the enforcement agency for this ordinance. DCBA has the authority to investigate these cases, assess fines that are payable to the county and or to the employee. Lastly, DCBA has the authority to help the employee get their job back and reinstate employees to the position the employee was discharged from. Next slide, please. If an employee is claiming of any violation, they are also able to sue their employer in a Superior Court of California within a 3-year window of when the violation first happened. The employees can be awarded reinstatement, back pay, penalties and or fines, lost wages and interest on those lost wages, and lastly, get back any attorney fees that they have accumulated during the process of suing their employer. Next slide, please. The DCBA office can be contacted via phone and email for any questions regarding the Hero Pay Ordinance or for filing any complaints for the Hero Pay Ordinance. As you can see, our 1-800 number is there, and so is the email address. In addition, if you would like to read the ordinance or get access to additional information regarding the Hero Pay Ordinance, you may visit our website at www.dcba.lacounty.gov. And we do have a Hero Pay tab on our website that you can click on to be able to get access to a PDF version of the ordinance and to get more information on our frequently asked questions page. Next slide, please. And now transitioning to our third program, going to be talking about the Los Angeles County Minimum Wage Ordinance, which went into effect on July 1st, 2016. As you can see, there are 2 minimum wage schedule amounts depending on the size of the employer. So this is really important. As far as employers that have 26 or more employees and employers with 25 or fewer employees are the 2 minimum wage schedules that are followed in the Los Angeles County. Every July 1st, the amount for minimum wage increases, and beginning July 1st, 2022, the minimum wage will be adjusted based on the consumer price index. Lastly, the minimum wage increases are not delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the increases will continue. So the question is, who is considered an employee that can benefit from this minimum wage ordinance? An employee is anyone who performs 2 hours of work in a particular week within the unincorporated areas of the Los Angeles County. So this includes part-time employees, full-time employees, employees that are on probation or training, and employees that are working for a nonprofit organization. Next slide, please. And as I stated, it's also very important to determine jurisdiction because this ordinance does only apply to the unincorporated parts of the LA County. And as you can see on the slide, there are 3 links shown that can be used to determine jurisdiction of the business. It is recommended to use 2 out of the 3 sources to verify and make sure that that business is located in an unincorporated part of the Los Angeles County. Next slide, please. So every employer is required to post the County of Los Angeles minimum wage poster in an obvious and clear area in the business to notify the employees of their current minimum wage and employees' rights under minimum wage ordinance. This way, it's clear to the employee what the minimum wage is at that current given time and what the anticipation will be moving forward of the minimum wage. If the employer, however, does not have a physical location, they must provide a hard copy or email notice each year to their employees regarding the minimum wage ordinance to make sure that updated information regarding the matter is communicated with each employee. Get the next slide, please. So DCBA is the enforcing agency for the Los Angeles County Minimum Wage Ordinance, and we have the authority to enforce provisions of this ordinance. This includes unpaid wages, retaliation, failure to post the minimum wage ordinance poster, and failure to allow access to payrolls records, and failure to maintain records. So during an audit that the DCBA performs, businesses must have 4 years of payroll record available for each employee. And the business must also allow full access to their payroll records to be audited by the DCBA. Next slide, please. And while investigating, if a DCBA investigator determines a violation of minimum wage has occurred, they may serve the business with a correction order. The employer at that moment is required to post the wage enforcement order in a clear and obvious place within 24 hours of receiving that correction order. The employer, employee, or a third party may contest the wage enforcement order by filing a request for reconsideration. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can go ahead and put that in the chat box for us. And I'm going to pass it along to Belinda, who's going to be our next presenter.
Hi, everybody. I am also with LA County's Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. Specifically, I am part of the Office of Small Business program. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So a couple of the services that Office of Small Business offers is the Small Business Concierge. So it's a one-stop shop for business owners in Los Angeles County. So if you're just getting started and you want to learn how to establish your business or what types of licenses and permits you need, maybe you need some access to capital and want to learn about some grants and funding opportunities, then our Small Business Concierge is probably where you want to go. Another aspect of the Office of Small Business is those Los Angeles County certifications. So for those of you that are interested in contracting with the government, LA County does offer certifications such as small business, women-owned, disadvantaged, and disabled veteran business enterprise. And these socioeconomic categories actually help you compete more aggressively when you are competing on government contracts. So if you have questions on that, that's also something you can come to us for. And then a third component of our program is the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So for those of you, again, that are interested in contracting with the federal, state, and local levels, that's something that we can assist you on. Next slide, please. So just a little bit, the LA County PTAC is an economic development program for DCBA's Office of Small Business. So we have counselors that help small, diverse businesses compete more effectively on a federal, state, and local government contracts. So we'll provide technical assistance. We'd like to do one-on-one counseling sessions. So if you want to, feel free to give us a call or email us at ptac@dcba.lacounty.gov to set aside your one-on-one so we can go over what questions you need addressed. We also offer trainings and videos, and then we also have some software such as GovSpin that we can use to actually check out the market space and maybe do some market research for you guys. Next slide. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to visit our website. You can contact us at 323-881-3964 or just send us an email to book an appointment. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to take a couple of questions that we've received from our attendees. And for the attendees, if you have any additional questions, then please add to our chat box below. So the first one, Elena, in regard to Hero Pay, and someone asks if they're not paid early, can they apply to receive leave to take care of their children under the Hero Pay Ordinance?
I'm sorry, Kevin, you were cutting out. Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. Can you receive paid leave as part of the Hero Pay Ordinance?
Yes, so the Hero Pay Ordinance, it's either you get $5 in hourly, $5 Hero Pay on top of your wages, hourly rate, or you can choose to receive paid leave hours. As if you're an employee, you must just write a letter, a note to your employer that you wish to do that.
Okay, another question here for you regarding the Anti-Retaliation Ordinance. Does this ordinance only cover complaints that are related to COVID-19 issues, or are other health issues also covered?
No, it does not cover only COVID-19 related issues. The ordinance became effective because of COVID-19 related issues, but no, it does not. It's not only COVID-19. It covers any type of health violation, public health violation.
Okay, the next question we have is probably for Belinda to answer. The question is, what are some resources available for small businesses who are not getting paid on time? So for example, the question comes from a subcontractor.
So you can actually notify the government agency that you're not being paid by the prime. But you have to start with the prime first because that's who your contract is with. If you want, actually email the Office of Small Business, ask for Belinda, and that way I can connect with you later about that, so we can maybe take a look at who and which agency that needs to be, because it depends on who that contract's with.
Okay, thank you. If anyone has any additional questions, please leave that in the chat box. One more, I believe this would be for Alina Arani. Where can I find the required Hero Pay posting?
The required Hero Pay posting is available on our website. It is free to get the poster, so you can a business can just print it and post it at their store. Kevin, I have one more question here. They're asking if the Hero Pay Ordinance cover employees that are teleworking. Unfortunately not. You have to be physically present at the store to qualify for the Hero Pay. Do we have any more questions, Kevin?
No, I think that is our last. Oh, here's one follow-up, I think, to that. It says, for those, and I think this is the question, for those who are working at home, are they not able to get paid leave pay as part of the Hero Pay Ordinance?
Unfortunately not. They don't qualify for the Hero Pay, whether the $5 or whether paid leave hours. Unfortunately, if they're home, they don't qualify.
Okay, I think that finishes up for questions. I know one person asked for a quick recap, and I will share this with all of the attendees, that today's presentation is being recorded and will be available to watch on DCBA's website. or on our DCBA YouTube page. Go to YouTube and search for Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs, and you should be able to find this recording there for you starting later tonight, and will be there permanently if you'd like to watch this in review. And the slides will be available at dcba.lacounty.gov as well. So I'll hand it back over to Alina to finish up the presentation.
Thank you, Kevin. I just wanted to thank all the participants for joining us today. We hope that the information we provided to you was informative and beneficial to you, and we hope to do similar webinars in the future. Thank you again for joining us today.